So hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today for this series called The Business of Neurofeedback. If you're listening to this, then you're probably someone who is considering getting into the neurofeedback industry. Today, I have with us Kristi Knight, who has been in the industry since 2013. Is that correct, Kristi?
Correct.
All right. So we want to just sort of hear about how you got into the business, and then sort of how it's gone for you, what you've learned, and how you can maybe give some advice to folks. We all have to learn our own lessons, I know, in running a small business, but I think it helps to hear from other people who have been there. So Kristi, if you don't mind to start with, what's your background in terms of training, career-wise, and how did you get started in neurofeedback?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me today, first of all. And second of all, as far as my background prior to getting involved and starting a business with NeuroOptimal, I was a mom. I was a stay-at-home mom for years. My husband and I have raised a blended family of 6 children, of which we have had, you know, the common struggles with children that people had. We had some with ADHD, some with a child with dyslexia, a child on the autism spectrum. So we definitely had our share of struggles as parents. And so that, you know, I was a mom and supportive in that role at home. Fast forward, when our youngest son turned 8 years old, he had always been struggling with some eating concerns, and those eating concerns took a turn kind of for the worst, and we were sent to a feeding clinic, a special feeding clinic in Illinois, which is where we learned of this special feeding disorder that he had. And given that we had tried numerous traditional therapies and methods for trying to help him with this feeding concern, their first recommendation when we left their clinic was to try some neurofeedback to help address some of the stress, frustration that he was having with the feeding, you know, therapies that we were trying to incorporate. So that's kind of how I got into this. So I, of course, came home and started researching it a little bit. And at that time, there was just not a lot out there. There weren't many people that did this. And really, we were very fortunate that we found a provider here in town at the time. And she was able to, we did a few in-office sessions, and because of the drive, we ended up renting a system. And so that's kind of how I got into this.
So you started out with the rental.
Yeah. We did a few in-office sessions, but it was about a 45-minute drive each way, and it just was difficult given he was the youngest of the children, and we had other children at home, and it was right after school hours, and it was just very difficult. So we ended up, for convenience for us, renting the system at home.
Yeah, neurofeedback is still hard to find, isn't it? We get a lot of calls from people who are driving 2 hours one way, you know, to be able to find it.
Yeah, absolutely. So after renting the system and seeing, you know, and having everybody in our house do it and just seeing the profound changes in him, that's what propelled us, knowing that he would need this long term. Our daughter also benefited greatly from the training, my husband, myself. So we bought it, you know, as that everyone's going to benefit wellness tool we can have long term in our home. That was our beginning intention. And the more we all trained, then that kind of changed. Okay, well, maybe I want to do this and help others now, because the changes were just so profound. And then that, of course, now propelled me. I went back to school. I now have a degree in cognitive studies and psychology. I'm certified in brain health and wellness coaching. I've done numerous courses and work with lots of different areas: sleep, trauma, mental health, learning disabilities, and so forth. So technically now, you know, I have more of, quote, a background and lots of experience using the system But I started with nothing, just a mom.
Yeah, I hear that. And I mean, it's been a real course change in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you say a little bit more about that? Because it's a big decision for people to purchase a system. They are not cheap. They're definitely an investment. You said that you saw changes in yourself, your kids, your husband. Can you say a little bit more about that that made you say, oh my goodness, I need to invest in this? Can you be a little more specific there?
Yeah, we just saw such tremendous changes that we weren't really even anticipating or expecting. I mean, we saw changes in sleep, we saw changes in performance, we saw changes in attitude. We, just there were just so many changes that we saw that we just said, this is something that we're going to benefit from long term. So for our house, this is what we're choosing. Kind of like when someone might choose to say, I'm going to buy this exercise bike because I'm going to use it because I feel great when I use it. Or, I'm going to buy this set of weights or whatever it is. For us as a family, we saw the huge benefits and transformation in so many people that we decided this was for us. This is what we were going to do.
Yeah,
so,
we take our bodies to the gym. We don't take our brains to the gym. And
that's right.
Your experience was profound. Yeah.
Right.
So there are lots of options that people have out there in terms of neurofeedback equipment. What made you decide on Neuroptimal?
Well, when we started, it was the only thing available in our area. There weren't other providers out there doing other types that we could find. And we were very fortunate. And after, doing some research on it and, research meaning, looking up what little bit there was available on the web at that time, and talking to the feeding team and the doctors and my nurse practitioner. And they said, if you can find someone that does neurofeedback, we've heard great things about it. So just in general, there weren't all these different types of training programs out there we were necessarily choosing from. It was the only one in our area. So we just heard such positive things about the technology in general.
Yeah.
We just decided we've tried other methods and they've limited our progress, and so we're going to try this. So and then of course,
what makes you stay with Neuroptimal?
Well, why fix something that's not broken? I mean,
I hear that.
It's working, right? And having a little more, after having gone back to school and understanding a little bit more about, the brain and development and things like that, I think the Neurooptimal system works with the body and the brain in, that dynamic way compared to other systems that are more of a look at this one area, look at this one approach, look at this one diagnosis, look at this one symptom. And Neurooptimal really looks at the whole picture, the whole person, the whole brain, and it does it every single day they train, because we're changing every single day. We're never a static picture. And so for me personally, having learned so much more about it after the fact, that was profound. And I was very fortunate that it was the first system because it just happens to be the best one.
That fits, I think, too, with what you've described about what you went through with your son, where you tried, various linear approaches, not to neurofeedback, but to health in general,
right,
and wellness. And it just didn't seem to fit for him, for you guys.
Right. And I think in general, that's just how we're molded as a society in our health care system. And I use that term very loosely because it's not really health care that we have, disease management possibly, or chronic care management, but it's not health care. And I feel like the Neurooptimal approach is more of a health and wellness, well-being, transformation process that we get exposed to when we utilize the technology.
Yeah. So tell me the name of your business. Tell us all. And what you do in your business and how you sort of created that, put that together.
Okay. So the name of the company is Brain Fitness. And shortly after purchasing the system, I went ahead and I was just talking to everybody, and people were already, at this point, we were probably 6 to 8 months after my son and my daughters had their, a lot of their sessions had started, and they, people outside of our family were seeing the changes in them and were asking, what are you doing again? And so it kind of became this organic process of just telling them what we were doing and where we found it and how we got started. And then, gradually they would say, well, will you do me? Will you do my son? Will you do I have a neighbor, and so it just kind of organically grew from that. In the very beginning, I didn't have a website. I didn't have a business card. I didn't have anything. And so I didn't even have a plan. I was literally just flying by the seat of my pants, and people just started coming. So the first year I probably made back, every penny of the first system. But it wasn't income that I was really looking for monthly. So it was, it was just like I was just kind of out there helping people. I'd made back my money. Okay, this works. And then at that point, I went back to school. And so
let me ask you this, Kristi, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I want to ask you because I guess the groups there, the people that you were talking to, were they neighbors? Were they church members? Were they family? Are you an extrovert? Because there are, maybe some introverts, me, who are listening who, aren't as connected. So was this people you were really connected with?
Probably both. I mean, people that were friends, family. My children were very involved in sports and school activities, PTOs, on the sidelines at the baseball game, at, different places. And so organically that kind of grew. I mean, my son's sports coach noticed, his teachers at school noticed. We had friends where he was all of a sudden able to start spending the night, go to friends' houses and he could eat. So it was really, the village that you're, of people in the very beginning, that kind of grew. That's how it grew. And then gradually, once I started seeing more and more people, they then started telling their doctors and their therapists and their school people what was going on. And then it just started, the spider web just kind of grew from there. So, now I'm in a situation where I have a lot of different types of providers from the Indy area that refer to me because they've had a client that they've seen for a long time that it's helped. And so that's kind of how I grew and how I got there. I also
make that transition to talking to providers, you meaning therapists or physicians or both?
All of the above. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, functional medicine doctors,
so
chiropractors.
How have you marketed to them? How have you built that part of it?
Well, people that they've seen, a lot of it, and they saw the results, and they saw that their services were enhanced by what this person was doing on the side. All of a sudden, in the past 3 months, what have you been doing? And they would start telling them, and then it was like, wow. I've had special education teachers come and look at the equipment, try to understand the process because they've got, this child who could not behave, couldn't sit in their, couldn't learn. And now all of a sudden they can. What are you doing? They hadn't seen anything like this before. So that's kind of how it grew. And it was, this one person tells 5 and this one tells 5 and this one tells 5. And before long, you're seeing 60 appointments a week. And it's a big thing. And in the beginning, that's all I did. I only saw people in my office. Since the past year, I've been transitioning to more rentals because I can't see everyone, first of all. And now really trying to put this in other professionals' hands because the concept of neurofeedback has just exploded in the general, population, in different journals, professionals are talking about it, whereas in the very beginning, they were not.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a very different world today than we were when I started 6 years ago.
Yeah, even in just 6 years, there's been a big shift because more and more people are finding out about neurofeedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, most people know about it when you mention it.
Yeah.
They say, oh, yeah, I know what that is. And so that then opens the door. Very few I find now do not know what it is. Where in the beginning, I was having to, it was a lot of, well, here's what it is, and here's what I do. And they look at you like, what? What?
Right.
Say that again? So, yeah.
Sounds like voodoo and magic.
Well, they say, does it really work? And I'm like, yeah, it really works.
It really does.
So
what would you, okay, so say more, I want you to say more if you would about your business. So you just do neurofeedback with people? Do you do health coaching?
Yeah, so I do a lot of, so how I kind of got into the health coaching world was because I found that a lot of people, I'd taken a lot of extra courses and of course learned, in school a lot about brain health and education, how we learn, some basics of psychology, how we develop, those sorts of things. And so I found a real need for the population of people that I was seeing to really help them understand how to take care of their brains so that, their training is going to be even more enhanced when they understand that drinking soda probably isn't the best choice before they come in for their session. Mm-hmm. And so little things like that, helping them understand some basics of, sleep hygiene and how, technology really plays a role in keeping that brain awake at night. And so I do neurofeedback, absolutely, in-office sessions, rentals, sales. But I also do a lot of, right now I'm doing a lot of speaking events. I'm doing some research with a university actually on a program to integrate brain health as a possible degree program. And so really just trying to educate people about how to take care of their brain and some of those aspects of what I consider that brain fitness and optimal health and well-being to be. So I do have some health coaching clients. I've done 3 different health coaching technical certifications for that. And I like that, but I'm really passionate about the brain health, toxins in our gut and our environment, our lifestyle, exercise, relaxation, self-care, things like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, I was just at a doctor's office and there was a magazine on Martha Stewart Living. Their March 2019 edition has a whole article, and the beginning sounds like something out of something from Neuroptimal. It's like, we pay attention to our bodies, we exercise this, that, and the other, but we don't pay attention to our brain health, even though it is supporting every aspect of every minute of our lives. And it was very cool for me to see that because like you're talking about, getting a graduate program in brain health, the brain is like, we're finally starting to understand it a little better. And it's starting to be something that more and more people are addressing. So if any, for people who are getting into this industry, it's a really good time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you're talking about is reflective of that. It's very exciting what you're doing there. So, what would you say would be something you learned along the way that may not have been so helpful for the business? What have you learned that really works for marketing and really doesn't?
Well, I think first of all, you have to tell your story, but when you're telling that story, you have to really define what target audience you want to work with. That was very difficult for me in the beginning. And I think it's difficult for a lot of people because we see the multitude of benefits for so many different people. And so, and I saw that in my own household, right? We all had different things. And it helped everybody, but it helped everybody in different ways and really not in all the ways we expected. So I think in the beginning, people are on fire. They're very passionate about getting started and they just want to help everybody. And that is wonderful, but it can be very limiting when you're marketing. I think that was something that I really learned the hard way. You really have to focus more. Just because you're focusing on a target audience doesn't mean that you can't still help many, many people. But you really have to say, I really am passionate about helping, whoever, whatever population, is out there. I work with a lot of families, but I also have, I've seen people as young as 18 months old and as old as 94. I have a large senior population. I have a huge teenage population, young adult. I've had a lot of men at times, professionals, lots of stress, lots of pressure, not really a lot of me downtime. So, I've just had lots of different types of populations over the years. And so really honing in on that one population to start with, I think would be my first advice to people.
And that it won't limit you for all the other people you can see.
No, it will actually open a lot more doors. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it just does. Probably the biggest thing that I would tell people in terms of actual marketing. I see this a lot. We grew up in an area where print, radio, television, advertising was kind of the thing. And that's great for companies that can afford to do that. What I have found is it is not cost effective for small businesses. We all fall into that small business category. So we need that organic referral. We need to be, I do definitely think, website is important. And I think collecting those emails and staying in touch with those customers is another huge lesson. Social media, you never own it, and it changes weekly, pretty much. Very difficult to stay on top of it. The biggest thing with social media is you have to be consistent. I have found a lot of success in finding some organizations that you support that you're really passionate about helping their cause. So in our local community, we have a lot of people, we have a lot of awareness about mental health support. And I find that that's an area where I want to really support those people and help, create awareness and reduce stigma and those sorts of things. So that's an area that I'm passionate about. So when there are events, festivals, health fairs, things of that nature, I get involved and I exhibit and give out free things and, offer sessions and so forth. So that's an area where, one area where I've reached out. And so I think, people can find areas like that where they can support other people and you'll grow. That's just another seed you're planting. Mm-hmm. Right?
You bet. And that's, you and I were talking about, when people get into this, they are starting a small business. And it's so exciting. The technology is exciting. The changes we see in people are exciting. And yet this is a small business and requires this effort. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all. You've given some pretty great advice. Pick that target audience. Who do you really like working with? Develop relationship with people so you can have the organic referrals, collect emails and send newsletters or something. Mm-hmm. Stay in contact with people, people who you maybe, we were talking, reached out to you in June, they disappear, they come back at, let's say in January. You've got to make that sustained effort.
Right.
I like what you said about supporting others in their causes that they're passionate about. I wonder if you could say a little bit more about that.
Sure. I guess reach out in your community. We have a holistic community here that I'm part of, and you meet a lot of other like-minded professionals, and they offer festivals and things. But but the mental health component for me has been a real passion because we lost someone very close to us to suicide. And so I'm pretty passionate about that. The other one that I really try to help support are children with learning disabilities, struggles academically, just because my son, has dealt with that. And then autism is a special place in my heart. My stepson is on the autism spectrum, and really supporting those individuals and helping them meet those goals. So anytime that I can reach out and support, offer help, awareness, things like that into those communities, I do so. So sometimes they're walks, sometimes, they're just different things. I've also done things like, I've sponsored school events and things like that, and donated silent auction baskets, and donated services to veterans and things of that nature. So, I've done a lot of different things, and I don't think it's any one thing that made the big difference. I think it's just planting seeds in a lot of different areas and then watching the fruits of that kind of unfold over the years. And it's just, it's the consistency. You're building a brand, you're building a business, and it takes time. It does not happen overnight. And things that you get really excited about sometimes just fall right through the cracks, and things you were absolutely not expecting are huge. And so you really have to understand that aspect too when you're getting into it. Just like with Neurooptimal, you don't even know what to expect. That can be so great out there waiting for you. And so you kind of have to, as you're cultivating, where your path and where your tribe's going to be, you got to kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, I hear you. So I guess I'm thinking about our discussion here. Anything you want to add before we close up today? Any big piece of advice or? Just to put you on the spot.
Just, I guess one thing is if you're getting into this and you're just starting and you're thinking, well, how long is it going to take me to be able to bring home X amount of money each month? I don't know that anyone can ever give you that answer. That's a tough one. And for me, when I first got into it, I didn't go into it with that mindset. Ultimately, I wanted to be able to make money. But I've reinvested a lot in the process to get to the point to where I can make money now, and really find the niche and what I'm passionate about doing. And so if you're looking to bring home X amount, week one or month one, I don't want you to be discouraged, because that probably might be really difficult to happen. But over time and patience, and it's a business. There's a lot to running a business. And you have a great product and a great service that you're offering people, but it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication, and it's a big learning curve. Business has changed. It isn't what it was 20 years ago. It's very different, and there's a big learning curve to that, and it's doable for sure. But surround yourself with people that inspire you, that are heading in a direction where you feel it lines up with your values, and just keep making those connections, because you never know where they're going to lead. But don't get discouraged. You're going to have 3 or 4 months in a row that are just off the chart great, and then you're going to have 3 or 4 months that are like, where did everybody go? That's just the nature of the business. I've seen it every year in my business, and I'm okay with that. So just anticipate that, but don't get discouraged. Reach out, use those downtimes as planning times, ways to reconnect or connect with new people, but don't get discouraged. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I mean, I use those times to, when in the slower months, to create content, and yeah, and it's fun and exciting. And if that was the other thing I was going to add, is do your neurofeedback.
Yes,
it has
absolutely
made me so productive.
Yes.
writing and being able to be focused and creative. And yeah, it's just been extraordinary. So that'd probably be my number one tip for building a neurofeedback business, is do your neurofeedback.
Yeah. Take care of yourself. Self-care, right? That's what we preach to people. So,
because when it's busy, it's like insane.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. You also, you know, sometimes in the very beginning, I was kind of gradually building. And then the past couple of years, it was so busy. I couldn't keep up. And I would come home at the end of the day completely drained. And I felt like, gosh, is this worth it? Is this really what I signed up for? This is like way more than I wanted to do, right? And so that's kind of when I said, you know what? I'm going to kind of change this business model, and I'm not going to see so many people in the office, and I'm going to put this in the hands of other people. And so, but I didn't know that in the beginning, and it took time, you know, to kind of build that experience and that understanding. So just because you start out on one path, don't be afraid to change to another, because you never know where that path is going to lead you. So, you know, go with what feels right. And you'll find your way.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you brought that up, because in Neuroptimal, you actually have different opportunities. You can purchase systems to see people in office. You can purchase systems to rent out to people, and you can also become a sales rep for the company.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you can change that business model, and as the more and more experience you have, and the more you get into it, and that kind of thing, it's pretty cool.
Yes.
So we do need to wrap up for today, Kristi. So I want you to plug your business again. Tell me the name, your name, the name of the company, and then also what areas you serve there in Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Kristi Knight. The company is Brain Fitness. It's beyourbestbrain.com. And I service the Fishers, Carmel, Westfield, Noblesville area for in-office sessions, and I will rent or ship anywhere. So
very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kristi. I really appreciate this. This was fun.
Yes.
All right. Take care.
Talk soon.
All right.